Okay, so what is your team name, by the way? I'm just curious.
What is my what?
Your team name.
Team Be Relentless.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, before I kind of dive in, and I'm just gonna cover a lot of like basics or like bases of what has helped me get to where I am today, and a lot about my story and how I have pulled that into my business. But before I get started, I'll just introduce myself really kind of formally and tell you a little bit about my story. So, I have been a coach since um, basically like the last day of January of 2014. My team is a 2015 elite team. Currently, I am a combined 6-star diamond and a Success Club 10 All-Star legend. Um, and with that said, I just really want to point it out to you guys because when I was a newer coach, I used to hear people's accomplishments like that and just think, I could never do what they've done, or I could never be where somebody like that is. And what I want you to understand that is from day one that you decide to become a coach, you are already a leader. You are already an influencer. Because you have the courage to step up and do something different with your life that can positively impact the lives of others. So just because you don't have the shiny things, or if you're a brand new coach and you don't even understand what those mean, doesn't mean that you are any less than, because that was kind of how it used to make me feel. So I just want to put that out there, that kudos to you for being a coach, for being on this call, because it shows that you are committed to your business and to the mission of what we do as coaches. So a little backstory about me before I dive in, because I think it's really important for people to know where I've come from and what I've gone through, and that no matter what your past is and no matter what you've gone through in your life, that where you decide to go is up to you, and who you become is totally all on you. So taking you guys way back, I lost my dad to a heart attack when I was 12 years old. And because I could not cope with the emotions of it over the next couple years, I developed an eating disorder. And at that time, I was a synchronized swimmer. I was a competitive swimmer. I played field hockey. I was super active, super athletic, and it was really kind of like my safe place and my outlet. And because I was so unhealthy my freshman year of high school, I was pulled off of all my sports teams and put into day therapy in Boston. And so, throughout the next year or so, I really had to learn how to deal with emotions in healthy ways, and really learn how to take care of myself all over again. And so I really have struggled with a lot of insecurities and self-doubts from a very young age. Fast forward to when I was 16 years old, I was in a boating accident and I was hit by a boat propeller. So I am missing the top half of my left pelvis. And it is just an absolute miracle that I even sit in front of you today after what I went through with that. But I've had 12 hip surgeries. I've learned to walk again multiple times. So yes, I'm recording. I have been through just like hell and back in terms of a lot of things in my life. And I really couldn't understand then why I was going through those things. And it hasn't really been until I became a coach that I really realized it all happened for me. It didn't happen to me. So as you know, over the years, my senior year of high school, I was still having a lot of surgeries. Same thing headed into college. I was going to school to be an art therapist because it was something that really helped me in my own life. I kept on having surgeries, so I kept kind of doing really well and then having to drop out of a semester to go back and have more surgery. And it was like this constant back and forth battle. And by the time I was maybe 23, 24, I had really just kind of like lost my drive. I had lost any sense of dreaming. I had lost any sense of hope in my life. I took a ton of medication. I was really depressed. I struggled a lot with anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder. And, I started hanging out with not the best people, making not the best decisions. So by the time I was 25, I had met a guy and I got pregnant. Surprise, after 3 months of knowing him. And I decided to try to make the relationship work. And I realized very quickly that there was a lot of addiction, and there was a lot of abuse. And so when my son was 5 months old, I chose to move across country from Philadelphia to Florida to raise my son on my own. I am a single mom. I've been on my own with my son since he was 5 months old. And at that point in my life, I really had no game plan. And it just seemed like my life kept raveling and spinning in a negative direction. And it was kind of then where I realized that if I didn't take control of my life, that I had no idea what was going to happen to me. And now I had a little baby depending on me. About 6 months after that, because I signed up to be a coach right before my son turned 1. And I was that girl who, my coach would write me a message and invite me to a challenge group, and I wanted to lose my baby weight and I had no energy and I was struggling, and she knew the positive community would really be helpful for me. And I just kept saying no, or I kept disappearing. I was that girl that everybody hates that just kept disappearing for messages. And finally, I was just sick and tired, and I was so desperate and so ready for change that I signed up with a T25 challenge pack. And, within 3 days, I was like addicted. I was like, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. Like, if I can fix myself and I can overcome, all the struggles that I have gone through in my life and turn this into something positive, then I can literally inspire and empower women and understand emotionally pretty much any aspect of struggle to help people and truly change people's lives. And so it was about 3 days into my personal journey that I decided to become a coach, and I have not looked back since then. So by a show of hands, I want to ask you guys, has this journey, has becoming a coach, or has even being a challenger, has it affected your life in a positive way? One or more ways? Everybody's hand should be up, I hope. One of the things that Ariel asked me to talk about tonight, and I have a list of a couple of things that I'm going to go through, but is really how to bring yourself into your business and share your story on social media, because I am a true believer that sharing your story is a huge part of having success in this business. And why I say that is because for the first about 3 months of being a coach, I was that girl that posted a picture with my T25 CD or drinking my Shakeology selfies. I didn't want to dig deep. I didn't want to share anything vulnerable. I didn't want to put anything out there that was scary. I didn't want to talk about being a single mom. I didn't want to talk about losing my dad. I didn't want to talk about any of the things that truly friggin' mattered and that would truly impact people. And so with personal development and, with some kind of nudges from other coaches on my team, I slowly started to put things out there that I felt comfortable with sharing. And sometimes it was even in a way where I didn't necessarily share exactly what it was that I had gone through, but I shared the emotions of it. Like, I shared how I felt inadequate, or how I was afraid, or how I didn't feel good enough, or how I was insecure, or how I struggled with body image. And I started to kind of breadcrumb my story and tie those into my social media posts and how Beachbody was positively impacting my life. And that was when I started to see a huge shift in my business, because the way that I explain this to my new coaches is that when you are a new coach, or maybe not even a new coach, I call us cookie cutter as new coaches, because basically we all drink Shakeology. We all do at-home workouts. We all read personal development. We all are, trying to be inspiring and motivating and whatever. But the reality is that the only thing that sets you apart in this business, the only variable is you and your story and what you have to offer and what you have to share and what is going to attract people to you. So why does somebody want you as their coach versus one of the other 450,000 coaches in this company. And that is what you have to work on nailing on social media, to find the people that you're going to connect to and really truly be able to help. And in my personal experience, helping people that have been through similar struggles to you is 10 times more fulfilling than it is to just connect with anybody that you can get to buy a challenge pack, right? Because that's not what this is about. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit before I kind of dig more into that topic. And if you guys have questions, you can feel free to ask. But I just wanted to share some of the things that have been really helpful for me to get to where I was as a new coach to where I am in my business today. And the first thing I have on the list is figuring out what your story is. So if this is something that you've never really thought about, I have a really simple exercise that you can do to kind of give yourself a bunch of basic topics that you can pull from to start sharing. So I want you, when you're done with this call, to get out a sheet of paper and on one side, write 10 ways that being a challenger has positively impacted your life. As a challenger, not as a coach. And then on the other side of that page, write down 10 ways that coaching has impacted your life. Because right there, you have a list of 20 different things that you can start to pull ideas from to share on social media. And if you want to dive a little bit deeper into that, I would encourage you to write down 5 things that you have been through in your life that have shaped you into the person that you are today. Just like I mentioned, loss of a father, going through an accident, living with abuse, becoming a single mom. Those are 5, there's a multitude of things that I can say were things that shaped me into the person I am today. That I know those are things that I can share that other people will relate to. And if you kind of can break down those topics and really think about, 2 or 3 ways that Beachbody has positively impacted those areas of your life or things helped you overcome things that you've been through, you're going to start coming up with killer social media posts that really stand out in your newsfeed. The next thing is that you have to remember to prosper where you're planted. And I say this because if I would have set the bar of how far I could go in this business based off of who I was and where I was when I started this business, I wouldn't have gone far at all because I didn't have a lot of self-confidence. I didn't have a lot of self-belief. I had a lot of baby weight to lose. I was anxiety-ridden. I was depressed. I had never been a girl with good follow-through. I had always good intentions, no follow-through. But I had to remember that it didn't matter where I was starting. I needed to focus more on who I wanted to become and where I wanted to go and start kind of taking one step forward at a time. And if you guys know Keith Callahan, he said something when I was a new coach on a call, and he said that you need 3 things to succeed in this business, and that's faith, fortitude, and inspiration or desperation. And that stuck out. It's always something that I think about because I know for me, I needed to have faith in myself. I needed to have faith in the mission that we do as coaches, and I needed to have faith in the opportunity and in my belief to create a better future for myself than what I was living at that point in time. I needed to have fortitude to allow myself to be a beginner, to show up and learn and grow every day and become better. And I needed to have, some people have inspiration, but I personally had a lot of desperation. At the point when I started my business, I was looking at either working 2 jobs. I already had I was working another job from home and going back to finish college, and putting my kid in full-time daycare, or making coaching work for me so I could be home with my baby. And that was a huge desperation for me, a huge driving force. So I think about it in terms of if there is some desperation in your life, you have to find a way to turn that into inspiration that you have the power to change it. The next thing is that Your success in this business is nothing more than a mere reflection of your dedication to the lives that you're willing to change. So there is no goals that you can set in this business that are selfish as long as you are willing to show up and do the work to serve your challengers and serve your coaches, right? So remember that you get what you give in this business. I also think a really important thing is that you have to remember you have to have a no plan B mentality. And I say this because whether you want to be a hobby coach, whether you are a part-time coach, or whether you desire to be a full-time coach, if you have a plan B in the back of your mind, like, well, if this doesn't work out, I'm just going to keep my full-time job, or if this doesn't work out, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. It gives you a way to make excuses in the back of your mind. But if you have a no plan B mentality, like I did from day one, you know that no matter what it takes, that you're going to make this work. It gives you this shift in mindset where literally there is no obstacle or no excuse too big that you cannot overcome it, because you know that you have to, right? The next thing, and this is a big one that not a lot of people like to hear, but sacrifice. Sacrifice is something that we all have to make. We just choose where that is in our life. And whether it's with coaching or something else, you are always making sacrifices in some shape or form. I knew for me since, from the very beginning that as a single mom, I had a lot on my plate. And I was one of those people in the beginning that was like, I don't even have time to do a 30-minute workout. Like, how in the hell am I going to build a business? So I had to really look at my schedule and be honest with myself about where I was wasting time in my day and where I wasn't being intentional with my time. So I had to stop scrolling social media for 2 hours at night. I had to stop watching TV and replace it with a personal development book. I had to stop taking forever to get ready and get out of the house so that I had an extra 20 minutes to pop into a training and watch a video, whatever it was. But really being honest with yourself that if this is something that you want to do big things with, that you're going to have to find those time gaps in your day and really be intentional with your time. And a good reminder, a good reality check of that for me is I always ask myself, do my actions match my intentions? Do my actions match my intentions every single day? I have it written above my desk on the wall. The next thing is that you have to do things before you're ready. So if you're always waiting until you feel ready to put something out there on social media, or you feel ready to start creating your own training or your own systems, or sharing the coaching opportunity, or taking on a new program, or do something that scares you, you're never going to friggin' be ready. And you're never going to find the potential that you're truly capable of if you push yourself past those fears. You have to do things before you're really ready to do them to see that you are 150% capable of so much more than the little comfort zone you're living in right now. Because everything that I've done in this business at one point scared the shit out of me. And it's now something that I don't even think about on a daily basis. The next thing is personal development. And I'm sure that you hear this all day, every day from your coaches, but personal development, I am like a walking, talking PD book, because it has absolutely, truly transformed me and my life in ways that I never could have gotten from a formal education or from anything else. You have to really be willing to show up and invest in yourself every day. And the way that I like to think about personal development is that you are not just investing in yourself with personal development. You are investing in your family, in your kids, in your relationships, in the challengers that you lead and the coaches that come onto your team, because the better you are, the better you are to help everybody else. And everything that you learn in your personal development is like a tool that you can put in your toolbox that you can pour into other people at some point in time. The next thing is learning to ask for help. And this was a really hard thing for me to do, because this was always a really hard thing for me to do in my life in general. But as a new coach, one of the best things that I learned how to do was, if you see somebody that is doing something you want to do, or that is has accomplished something you want to accomplish, the simplest question you can say is, how do I do what you do? Because that question for me asking that to a multitude of coaches that I looked up to and I admired, and I wanted to know how they had been successful with anything. People are happy to help you. People are happy to tell you what they've done. People are happy to give you suggestions. And then when you get those suggestions, you have to be the one that's intentional to take that knowledge and put it into action. Because if you learn something and you don't implement it and you don't use it, it's wasted. It's wasted knowledge if you don't put that into action. The next thing, and this is something you probably hear all the time too, but the slight edge mentality. I was never a consistent person in any aspect of my life, literally. And when I read The Slight Edge the first time, I was like, God, this is so boring. But when I went back and I read it after a year of being a coach, and I saw how that consistency of small choices every single day had impacted me from where I started as a brand new coach to where I was a year in, and even to where I am now, almost, 3 years later, almost. Consistency across the board with your personal journey, with your personal development, with doing your power hours, with getting on team calls, with sharing on social media, with hitting Success Club. All of those little consistent things. If you look at any top coach in this company, I can guarantee you one of the basic things that they're going to tell you it took them to be successful is consistency. It is time and consistency that will get you to any goal in this business or in your life. And the next thing is really having confidence in yourself. And I don't like to say fake it till you make it, because that's not true, but I really think that it has to come from a deeper belief in something. It has to come from a purpose that you know why you're here, and you know where you're headed. You know what your why is, and you know what you want to do with your life and with this business. And having that confidence to really show up and believe that you're capable of achieving it. And something that I like to ask my team sometimes, or coaches when they're struggling, is if your life were to look exactly the same a year from now, would you be satisfied or would you be settling? And that always gives me chills when I ask myself that question, because although I do believe it's very important to be grateful for where you're at right now, I also do believe that a lot of times, because things are hard, or things take time, or it's hard to have faith in something you can't yet see, that we settle and we crawl back into that comfort zone. And I want you to really push that envelope and think about your life can be entirely different 1 year from now if you push in this business and you have clarity of where you're going and what you want to accomplish, and you show up and you do those consistent things every single day, that you can be in an entirely different place 1 year from now. And let me see. If anybody has questions of anything I've talked about, you can feel free to ask, or about anything in general. Otherwise, I can just kind of keep going, Ariel.
What would you say were some of your biggest struggles?
I was actually asked to speak at a Super Saturdays, I don't know, sometime last year, and I was asked what my biggest obstacle was in this business. And I said that my biggest obstacle was myself. My biggest obstacle, coming into this business, I had a long road ahead of me, and I basically had a really great past history of failures and of quitting and of giving up and just settling in my life. And it took a lot for me mentally to really commit to the fact that the future could be better than it was, and I could be better than I was, and that I was capable and I had the power to change it. Another obstacle for me was the whole time management thing. I've never been great with time management. I'm not a very organized person. If you saw my office or you saw my desk, you'd be like, what? How do you function like that? But you have to find systems and a time schedule that works for me. And I think a lot of times I heard coaches say, like, you need business hours, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I kind of looked to everybody else to figure out a way that worked for me. And I think maybe about a year and a half in, I was finally like, screw what works for everybody else. Like, I have to figure out what works for me. And sometimes that means that I drink coffee when I put my kid to bed at 11 o'clock at night and I work till 2 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes it means that I'm going to bed early at night so I can wake up and get my workout in. Right now what's working best for me is I get up really early before I take my son to school. I do my personal development in the morning. I get my workout done, and now he goes to school from 9 to noon. So that is like my really focused work time. But prior to that, he was home all the time. So I had to find the time gaps in my day. When he was eating breakfast, sometimes I would pop in and I would send a couple invites, or I would send a couple friend requests. And I am totally somebody that believes no matter what day goes by, that you have to put those business behaviors first. The vital behaviors, your power hours, those things come first before anything else. And if that means it's one solid hour for you, that's great. If it means that it's broken up into 3 20-minute segments, that's fine too. But as long as you can go to bed at night knowing that you did what you needed to do to move forward, and that works for you, that's fine. But in terms of systems that have personally helped me a lot, especially with time management, is that in my cell phone, in my notes section, I have all of my scripts. So I have all of the questions that I ask people when I'm forming about their health and fitness and nutrition. I have all the explanations of what programs cost and what they come with and what they entail, so that when I'm having conversations with people, if I run out to run an errand and I get a message that comes through, I can quickly copy paste and respond to things. And if people saw how I function behind the scenes, it's probably kind of chaotic, but it works for me. So you have to figure out a way that works for you, for sure.
Now, with the business hour, would you say that the most important would be the inviting or the following up, or the inviting friends, or friend requesting people? Do you find that a lot of people are coming to you now versus in the beginning were you reaching out to a lot of other, were you the one reaching out and now the tables have turned, or do you feel that you're still reaching out to a lot of people?
I want to say that about 6 months into coaching, I started running monthly free groups. And I highly push this with my team because I think it's a really great networking and business building tool. And I can kind of quickly go through what I do on a daily basis with you if you want. But so I consistently add 3 to 5 people to my network every single day. And because of my personal situation that I had with my son's dad, I have never made my Facebook public. I have always kept it private. So I knew that I had to work really consistently in adding to my network. So I'm in a lot of mom groups. I'm in a lot of do-it-yourself organizational kind of groups. You can get in whatever kind of groups you like, fan pages for sports teams or whatever, local mom groups in your area. But go into those groups and really interact and participate, because that is a great place to network with people that have common interests with you already, right? So I add 3 to 5 people to my network a day. And then when I go every single day, I start new conversations with new people. So I don't know if you guys know, but I can actually screen share really quickly so you can see this.
But now, when you say that you're talking to these people in the groups, you're not mentioning Beachbody, you're connecting with them for the reason that you're in that same group at first.
Yeah. My first probably year and a half, 2 years of coaching was basically I was hanging out in mom groups and I was literally asking questions that I really had about breastfeeding, about sleeping, about cribs, about,
Yeah, I think that's great to
whatever.
To remember too, when people have questions, don't be afraid to put it on Facebook, because people love to help, and it's great to put it in that group. Even if you might have the answer, you can call your mom up, like put it on Facebook if you're able to, or if you're part of groups, like ask the question, because I find that people really, really like to help.
And that's even a great thing in terms of your social media posts. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever, like, sometimes when I go to events, I post a picture of like 3 dresses. I'm like, A, B, or C, and like 400 people.
Yeah, like, yeah. And then you put a post out there where you're like airing your dirty laundry and you get like 3 likes. You're like, are you freaking serious? And people tell you what dress to wear to, it's crazy.
But I'll show you, I'll screen share really quickly. So when I go in to work to send new messages every single day, if you click right here on your friends on your profile page, and there's a little thing that says recently added, you can click on that and see all of the people that you just added to your network. And that is where I personally go every day, and I go to people's pages. I like or comment on their posts. I don't always immediately send messages, but if I see something on their Facebook that I really relate to and connect with, then I shoot them a message. Like a lot of times I'll see a mom that has a little boy like I do, and I love his outfit, so I'll ask where she bought it. Or I see a recipe that they posted, and I'm curious if it was a good recipe or not, because I blog recipes. So I'm like, hey girl, have you tried that recipe? It looks really awesome, whatever. But just your whole intention is not to think about Success Club points or not to think about helping somebody, but it is just with intent to build new friendships and make relationships.
I think it's also important too, when you find that somebody friend requests you, like shoot them a message and be like, hey, thanks so much for the friend request. Like obviously if they requested you for a reason, they may not respond, but it's awesome just to let them know. Or if you ask somebody to be a friend a while ago and it takes them months and then they finally accept, like shoot them a message and just be like, hey, thank you so much for connecting, like, or accepting my request. I at least that's what I find that I do. And it's that like strikes up a conversation again.
That doesn't happen often for me. It typically my friend requests are either coaches or they're creepy people from like,
I'm getting a lot of those lately.
And I'm like, nope, don't want to be friends with you. But after that, then I call it hanging out in my inbox. So that is basically where I spend a majority of my time, because your notifications are not going to build your business. Being in your inbox does. So I go in and I continue on conversations. I follow up with people that I have talked to about health and fitness goals, or that have asked questions about what I do or something I shared or whatever. And I really, really put a lot of energy and a lot of time into the conversations I have, because that's where my heart is. Like, I love connecting with people. I love knowing their stories. I love knowing about their lives. And I think that's a really huge part of this business, because it is a relationship business. And if you can't build good relationships, you're definitely going to struggle in terms of finding people to help. So, then I personally send invites to my challenge group, and I structure my months now so that typically the 3rd Monday of every single month is when I start a new challenge group, with exception of this month because of the Core de Force launch. But I like to structure my months so that when I head into a new month, I know exactly what is happening and when it is happening and when I need to start inviting and when I need to start sharing on social media about it. So I start my challenge group the 3rd Monday typically of every month, and I start inviting. I start following up in the last week or week and a half of the month prior. So I start getting those conversations going. And then come, the 1st of a month is when I start inviting to that next challenge group. And so I really invite primarily in that first week and a half to my prep week. So I'm letting people know that my prep week starts, say for example, on the 14th, and that we cover meal planning, we cover meal prepping, we cover goal setting, we cover all of the things that they really need to set themselves up to be successful. And that way I can typically hit Success Club. It's always my goal to hit Success Club 10 by the first week of the month. And at the latest, the 2nd week of the month, because I don't like having people come in late and being all over the place, because then I get lost. They don't get the full experience. So
now, with the prep week, are these people, then these are people that just haven't even bought a challenge pack from you, or these people that have purchased a challenge pack that you're adding into the group for the prep week?
No, these are people that I'm inviting to a new challenge group that have not purchased a challenge pack yet.
So that way they're kind of getting to see do you take them out of the group if they don't purchase a challenge pack, or do you let them
I don't add people to my groups until they have actually become a customer.
Okay. So this is just like an event page that you put people in for
Right. But the whole concept behind inviting to the prep week first is because it kind of creates that sense of urgency to get people ready and get people started and get people set up to be in the challenge group. And then once that like first week and a half of the month goes by, if I still have a couple more people that I want to help is when I really share like, hey, my prep week starts tomorrow and my challenge group starts next Monday. I know you are really wanting to work on losing 20 pounds and whatever we've talked about. So I just wanted to follow up and let you know that if you want to receive your package in time and if you want to join this group, I'll save a spot for you, but it would be best to get that order in today so that you get your package in time since it takes 5 to 7 days to arrive. So that's basically how I like structure my month and know when I'm inviting and what I'm inviting to and kind of create that sense of urgency without ever being pushy, because I don't like to be that. Nor do people ever respond to that anyway. So,
and now, in regards to inviting, are you inviting people that you're just connecting with? Or are these people that hit you up that had questions? Are these people that you had like on a list that had said that they were maybe interested in doing something? Or are these just people that have liked a photo and you contact them and say, hey, like I've got this group?
It's kind of a combination of everything, really, because there's a lot of people that tell me like, no, not right now. This isn't a good time. I can't afford it, whatever. And they have all those objections. So those are people that I put on a list to follow up with. And so sometimes they'll tell me like, or if somebody gives me an objection, a lot of times I'm like, hey, I know this isn't a good time for you, but would it be helpful if I follow up with you next month and see if that's a better time? And 99% of the time people say yes. So I put these people on a list, and those are the first people that I go back to and invite at the beginning of a new month. And then beyond that, I do keep note of who likes my social media posts, because I see a lot of times people that are new that I add to my network are liking things. And I always just reach out and just say like, hey, thanks for the love on my, post today or something, like nothing crazy. I don't really like start a conversation, but I just thank them for their support on my social media. So that sometimes starts conversations and people are like, so what do you actually do? And then a lot of times it's just conversations where, you have to understand that a lot of people are not on social media or Facebook like we are all the time. So if people don't immediately respond to you or people ignore a couple messages, like the worst thing that you can do is be like, screw that person. I'm not going to check back in on them. Sometimes I follow up with people 4 to 5 times before they respond to me. And I'm like, oh my God, I've been so busy. I'm so sorry. Like, thank God you wrote me again or whatever. But like really making sure that you're not losing people and that you're really caring to like follow up and have those conversations and keep building those relationships. But
you said you were disorganized. So how are you keeping track of all these people?
Notebooks. I write everything in notebooks. I have tried to do Excel sheets. A lot of my coaches use TeamZ and stuff like that. But I'm old school. I function by notebooks. And that way I write like people I add to my network. I write in that list. I have a separate page for the people that to follow up with and things like that. And when people do sign up and do decide to add to a challenge group, I cross their name off the list. And at the end of a month, I write a new list. So, but I do have a really big ongoing list of everybody that I add to my network. So like I said, it's not the easiest to explain, but it works for me and it always has. So I don't like to steer away from that. And then sometimes if I have like extra time, I like to think about certain things that I want to be sharing on social media, like dependent on the time of year or the season. Like right now is a great time to really talk about, instead of heading into a new year with like 10 pounds, that you've gained over the holidays and feeling like crap and having no energy, really thinking that any time of year is a great time to make a change and put yourself and your health first. Sharing things like that on your social media that are really kind of combating those objections for you that you might get are really great things to share. So personally, for me, I like to keep a running list in my phone of when I have things pop into my head that are like, oh, that would be a really great post idea. Or like you're driving, like, I don't know if you guys are like me, but like I'm in the shower or I'm like laying in bed at night or like I'm driving and I have these ideas pop in my head and I'm like, oh, that would be such a good post idea. So like write those things down and keep a running list, because if you don't, a lot of times you forget them, right? Oh, and the other thing that I do that really helps me as well, especially since I'm not super organized, is every single morning I sit down and I make a daily to-do list. So my power hour is always at the top of that list, but I have a concrete list of like 5 to 7 things usually that I need to accomplish in that day. So it could be I need to set up my core to force group. I need to, post cron my challenge group posts. I need to share about the team spirit, with my team or whatever. But I have 5 to 7 things that I know that I need to get done that day, because I'm somebody that works really well if I can see it on a list and I can cross it off and know that I've accomplished something that day. So that's super helpful to me too, because if you kind of head into a day not really knowing what you need to do, then a lot of times it just doesn't get done. So I didn't look in the chat.
I don't think there was nothing going on. Fake it till you believe it. That's what I like.
Does anybody else have questions?
Go ahead, guys. She doesn't bite, I promise.
My kid bites though.
Yeah, no kidding.
So you don't have to worry right now.
What do you call him? A three-anger?
Teenager.
Yeah, I got 2 of those over here. It's not fun.
I saw your video that day. I was dying laughing. Oh, we all have those days.
Now, with your stories, like when do you usually do like your big impactful posts? Like when do you like bring back your journey, like, and bring it to the forefront? Is it, a week before you've got a challenge group going, or when do you like to make those big impactful posts that share your journey?
A lot of times it is when I know that I have something coming up, or even, for example, if I've seen a theme of like a lot of objections that I'm getting in my messages, then perhaps I will, write a post about my personal story of how, as a single mom, I just thought that I didn't have time to make time for myself, or I felt like it was selfish to make time for me. And then share about how, committing to this journey has really helped me know that committing that time to me makes me a better mom and makes me happier and makes me more patient and makes me whatever. A lot of times I'm kind of just one of those people that like goes with it when I have that inspiration, because I don't know about you guys, but sometimes you read something in personal development, or you get off of a call, or you wake up one morning and there's just this thought in your head, or it's, like a Transformation Tuesday day or a Throwback Thursday day or a Flashback Friday or whatever. And there's something that's kind of on your heart to share. I feel like it's really important if you can make the time to get that out, because that's when I feel like it comes off most authentic and most natural. So I wouldn't really say like I have a schedule of how and when I share things, but I do my best to really kind of just really be honest about where I'm at in my life and what I'm going through. And if there's something that I feel like needs to be shared or needs to be said, then I do my best to get it out that day, because that's typically when I make my best posts, because they just really come from that place of, the purpose of sharing it and why it's been so impactful for me. So I really think you have to run when you have that high of having the courage to share it. Cause I know that sometimes it's like that little window that you have where you're like, okay, I need to put this out there, but it scares me, but I know that it can help somebody. Sometimes even too, I will see themes in my challenge groups of people struggling with certain things. For example, this morning I did, I posted a video and I shared about how sometimes like we steal the joy in our own journey because we're focusing, too much on what we used to be, like that comparison of like, oh, when I was, before I was a mom, I was skinny and I wore a size 2 and I was whatever. Like a lot of people, they steal their own joy of their journey now because they're comparing to what they used to be. Or, like I mentioned that like when we did that physique competition, like I've gained 12 pounds since then. I've lost so much strength since I've done that. But like, it's really having to find that joy in the journey every day. And I talked about, that a lot of times people focus so much on the end result that they don't, have the motivation to show up every day because it's not an instant gratification process. Like you didn't get to where you are overnight and you're not going to change it overnight. So if I see something in my challenge groups or something that I know a lot of people might relate to or struggle with, and it's something that I have personally struggled with as well, I do my best to put that in social media posts, and then I share my social media posts to my challenge group as well. So I'm just kind of adding value all around.
Yeah, I try to tell my coaches to do the same thing. Like, I know it's probably easier for you and I to put ourselves out there right now because I think you do get to that point where you're just like, fuck it, for the most part. Like, what's the worst that can happen? I help somebody or someone might look at me differently. And you get to that point where you build the thicker skin. So I do the same thing. And I try to tell them, like, don't create more work for yourself, like work smarter, not harder. So share those things. Or if they make an awesome post in the challenge group, I'm like, share that, like put that on your social media. But I understand that it does sometimes take people a little bit longer, or it does take you a little bit to get to that point where you're just like, you don't have a problem putting it out there anymore because you realize that you're impacting people, and that makes it a little bit easier when people are coming to you. And
yeah, and I like a lot of times, like especially new coaches, they'll tell me something and I'm like, oh my God, you have to share that. And they're like, I have this one coach that I joke with that she took a fireball shot like before she made her first vulnerable post because that's how friggin' scared she was. And like, I like to tell people to think about it in the way of like, you all raised your hand that this has changed your life in some way, shape, or form, or multiple ways. And it is friggin' selfish if you keep that to yourself. It is selfish if you don't share those things. Like, it would be so selfish of me if I didn't show up on social media and share what has literally changed every aspect of my life every day. So I don't really care if people think it's annoying or it's crazy or it's wild, the things that I share, because I know how impactful it has been. And I think your confidence and your courage to share those things builds even more as you start to really see it transform people's lives. Like, I get messages all the time from challengers, from, even coaches on my team now. I have a coach on my team now who started coaching when she was 3 months pregnant and wanted to be home full time with her kids. And she was struggling financially and had a lot to overcome personally. And I look at her every day and I see how different her life is because of this opportunity. And I think, damn, how selfish would it be if I didn't continue to share that? Because I never would have found her had I not had the courage to share back then. So like, you have to really stop thinking about you and stop worrying about you and start thinking about the people that are out there on your social media that are so desperate for change, whether it's with fitness or nutrition or having better energy or having more self-confidence, or they have literally no self-love and they can't stand the sight of themselves when they look in the mirror every single day, or people that are waking up and going to jobs that they absolutely hate, not seeing their kids, financially struggling, whatever it is. Like, this is not about you. Coaching is about everybody else, and you have to be the one that finds the courage to share those things. And I think when I think about it in terms of something that really scares me to share, I give myself that reality check of like, Dana, if you don't share this, you're selfish. And that always gives me the courage to just close my eyes and press the post button, which doesn't happen much anymore, but it did.
So what kind of advice would you give to like the newer coaches that maybe don't have coaches under them yet, or don't have too many challenges, or don't have those challenges that are coming to them saying like, dude, you changed my life? Or if they're not getting that type of response yet, like what would you say to them to keep them the faith, just have the faith that just because you can't see it, like it's going to happen if you, or think about the people that are going to come to you. Like, what would you say to them, like when you were a coach back then and you didn't have like these people coming to you yet?
I think that you really have to develop the belief yourself. Like you have to be 150% committed to your journey to really feel that power and that belief behind what we do. And you just have to know that people are going to come if you continue to show up and share every day. And you really have to realize too, that even if you put something out there on social media and nobody likes it and nobody comments, it doesn't mean that it didn't matter. Like it doesn't mean that it was wasted or that your words were wasted or that your emotion behind it was wasted. I truly believe that the people that are meant to see the things they need to see will see them. And it just takes you continuing to show up and do that to be able to find those people. Because if you give up, you're never going to help anybody. Like what does giving up do, you know? Right. And I think that also, if you don't have challengers yet, share people's transformations from your team. Share about coaches on your team that inspire you, or if there's somebody that you look up to in this business and their journey has inspired you in some way, share those things too. You don't just have to share about yourself. You can share about calls that you're on. You can share about something that happened in your challenge group. You can share about, you know, a coach on your team that did something amazing. Like any kind of inspiration or motivation that you're finding yourself in this journey, share those things because something will connect to somebody.
Yeah, I think the comment with you, it doesn't mean people aren't watching. Just because they don't comment doesn't mean that people are not watching, because they are. It may take a little bit longer for them to reach out, which I think it's really important to reach out to other people, because think about yourself. Like you probably, if you're in that unfortunate state, like it takes a lot of balls to reach out to somebody. Like, so those people that are liking and loving your stuff, if you see a pattern with someone, like just reach out and just thank them. And then that kind of opens the door for them, instead of them feeling like they're coming out of like the cut to like talk to you. Like, I don't know, try to think of how you were back then, and asking for help is usually the hardest thing. So maybe you open that doorway for them.
I absolutely agree with that, because I think about where I was before I started this journey, and I was literally that girl that sat depressed every single night scrolling my social media, like comparing my life to everybody else's, unhappy with who I was, with where I was, with everything. And there's definitely people out there that even if you don't know it or not, you are positively impacting them, and they are watching. And proof of that is that now that I've been doing this for over 2.5 years, that I get messages sometimes for people that are like, I've been watching you for 2 years. And that I've never, like, maybe I've said hi to, but we've never had a conversation beyond that. Or they've never liked a post or never commented on anything. Because you have to think about it too, that especially if there are people that don't know you personally, that you just added to your network, sometimes it takes people a while to trust you. And that's, in essence, another reason why it's so friggin' important to be authentic and like share who you are on social media. And not just in terms of your journey, but like sharing things about you. Like if you're a mom, like I share so much about my son and his crazy antics and how busy he is and how crazy and wild he is, because there are so many moms on my social media that can relate to that. I share things like I love coffee. Like I am obsessed with coffee. I drink it all day, every day. I share coffee recipes. Those are, you know, things that you love and things that make you who you are things that you should be putting out on social media, because those are things that people connect to as well. So don't think that it always has to be something about Beachbody. But also I like to tell my team too that people don't relate to perfection. Like if you are not humanizing yourself and humanizing your journey and sharing when you struggle, and sharing that some days you wake up and you don't feel motivated and you don't want to freaking work out and you don't feel like eating your 21-day fixed meal because your family's eating pizza and chicken wings and drinking beer. Like share those things. Like you have to be human, you have to be relatable, and then you have to really show that no matter what, you can stick to these things, or you can overcome those excuses, or how you found the motivation to do your workout today, or why you did it anyways, and how glad you are that you did. Like, you have to make it to where people can connect to those things, because people don't always relate to motivation and inspiration. Because I mean, I know I didn't. Like, I'd read a quote and be like, oh, that's cool, and then scroll on about my miserable day. Like, people have to see that you're human too, you know?
Absolutely. Any questions, guys? Besides someone's battery dying on their phone?
Coach problems.
All right, cool.
Oh,
What?
one last thing that I should add in there, because I think it's important, is really like finding what gives you joy in this business. Because I think especially when you're pushing for goals, you know, for rank goals or for Success Club, or if you're pushing for a goal like Elite or Premier or things like that, that sometimes you can kind of get lost in like the numbers and the where people are at and all this like stuff that at the end of the day, like, really doesn't freaking matter. Like, that is not why you started to be a coach in the first place. So don't get lost in the shiny things. And really continue to focus on what brings you joy in that business every day. And like, when I went to leadership, that was a really big reality check for me, because I'm typically a top recruiter in my team, and I had kind of shifted to really focusing a lot more energy on like my team and my trainings and one-on-one calls and all these things, which that brings me joy, but it doesn't bring me joy like it does being hands-on, like in the trenches, in my challenge groups, helping people transform their lives like this has done for me. So if you're ever feeling unmotivated or uninspired, or like you're kind of stuck in your business, it's really important to sit back and reflect on why you feel that way, and on what you need to change to get past that hump or get past that slump or whatever it is, and really find the joy in your business. Because if you don't enjoy doing it, you're not going to do it, and you're never going to be successful. So you really have to keep your heart focused in the right place.
I agree. And people can sense it.
Absolutely, 100%.
People know. And you know what, just go back to what you know makes you happy with this business, and when you're happy, it's going to exude to other people, and they're going to want what you want. So
Absolutely,
it's important to kind of bring it back, because you do. I know myself got caught up in numbers with Success Club, and I got a big fat 0 since the first time I've ever started coaching in September, and I needed it to happen because my focus was not where it needed to be.
Yep.
And I was taking the joy, it was taking the fun out of it, it was taking everything. So I just let it happen, and just going to keep rolling and keep going. I've got a great team, so that's where my focus is.
Yep. I missed Success Club 10 last month for my first month in like 33 months by 2 points. But it was honestly, failures in this business, or goals that you miss, are like literally your best lessons, your best learning lessons. I mean, I could sit here and name the thousands of failures that I've had in this business, because I have. Like, I think a lot of times we look at people that have accomplished incredible things and think like they never fail, or they never miss goals, or they never whatever. And like, that's total bullshit, because I've missed so many goals and failed so many times. But the key with those things is that you really have to sit back and think about what you're learning. And like, for me, missing Success Club 10 last month was like a really good reality check of like, it's not about numbers. It doesn't really matter. Does it really matter that I get a Success Club All-Star Legend medal at Summit? Like, yeah, that's a great accomplishment. But at the same time, like, I'm still helping people, and that's what matters. And it also kind of humbled me in terms of reminding myself that as a leader, you have to lead in a way that anybody on your team can duplicate what you do. That coaches can come onto your team and think like, I can do what she does, and I can be successful like she is, and I can make an impact like she has. So learn from your failures, learn from your mistakes, and learn from those things that you miss, because they're literally the the best lessons for sure.
And I think the same can be said for your challengers too, because I think if you're, and that was one of my own faults, and you kind of helped put that into perspective for me when I was training for the second classic, was like, I have to let people relate to me. Like if I come off like a robot, or that I struggle, or that I have to be perfect, or that I can bench whatever, like people look at me and are like, yeah, that's cool, you have abs and like you're getting up there, and
I could never do that.
But I could never do what you're doing. And challengers were I was feeding, and coaches, and so I think it can go to your challenges too. So if you fall doing a plank, or you fall doing something, or you struggle, show people, because that's like, struggles come with success. It goes hand in hand. So I think it's important that you got to let those side. That's something that Katie and I work on now, is not perfection.
Boop, boop. Love it.
All right.
Girl, that's progress.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. I've been talking about this with her since July. I was like, can you please do a call for me? Now we finally did it, and I so appreciate it. And I know my team is going to love it. I'm so happy that so many got on, and a lot of them listened to the recording. So thank you.
You're so welcome. Nice
Great.
to see you guys. I always like to see new faces.
Yeah, shoot her a friend request too. Be friends.
I like new friends.
Yeah, we all do. All right, I will talk to you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a good night, guys.
Good night, guys.